Welcome to our webinar. Bienvenidos a nuestro seminario virtual. We are pleased to let you know that we have English to Spanish interpretation available for this webinar. Interpretación de inglés a español está disponible durante este seminario. When you turn on the interpretation feature for Zoom, if you're on a computer, you will see a globe pop up on the bottom of the screen. If you are on the phone, you will see 3 dots on the bottom, right-hand side of your screen. Click on these and select the language you speak. If for some reason the original speaker sounds louder than the interpreter you're listening to, you can select the option to mute the original audio at any moment. Las instrucciones para activar la interpretación son las siguientes. Cuando activamos la función de interpretación de Zoom, si está en una computadora, verá un globo emergente en la parte inferior de la pantalla. Si está en su teléfono, verá 3 puntos en la parte inferior derecha de la pantalla. Haga clic en estos y seleccione el idioma que habla. Si por alguna razón el altavoz original suena más fuerte que el intérprete que está escuchando, puede seleccionar la opción para silenciar el audio original en cualquier momento. All right, let's get started. For those of you who would like to submit questions via Facebook Live, please go ahead and do so on the comment box, and we will make sure to relay those messages to the panelists. Si desean poner preguntas en Facebook Live, en la caja de comentarios, por favor háganlo y nuestro personal va a transmitir esas preguntas a los navegadores del seminario. All right, so today's webinar is brought to you by the San Joaquin Valley Health Fund's Immigration Policy Subcommittee. The Immigration I am Eduardo Ramirez Castro. I am the Associate Director of the Sustainable Rural Communities Project at California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation in Fresno. And I will also serve as a moderator for the event with the great support of our staff from CVIIC, the San Joaquin Valley Health Fund, and our consultants from Everyday Impact Consulting. I am very honored to also introduce you to our Immigration Policy Subcommittee co-chair, Allison Davenport. She is a supervising attorney at the Immigrant Legal Resource Center. Allison and I are very privileged to be with you today and to share this space with our incredible partner organizations who are leading life-changing work across the San Joaquin Valley. We will begin by providing you a little bit of background about the Immigration Policy Subcommittee, and then we will hear from various panelists, the change makers and on-the-ground leaders themselves. At the end, we will reserve some time to address any questions you may have. The Immigration Policy Subcommittee is comprised of over 30 immigrant and refugee serving organizations in the Central Valley. Each year, this committee develops a policy platform that serves as a year-round organizing tool that fuels partners' local, regional, and statewide advocacy, and also fuels partners' ongoing partnerships with impacted communities, elected representatives, and policymakers. The 2021 Immigration Policy Platform is both opportunistic and aspirational, and it is a reflection of the promise of the San Joaquin Valley and the commitment of its grassroots and organizational leaders to advancing health and racial equity. The San Joaquin Valley Health Fund's Immigration Policy Subcommittee is committed to advancing its mission to ensure inclusive communities where all immigrants and refugees, regardless of income or place of residence, enjoy access to support services, economic opportunity, high-quality legal representation, and meaningful access to civic participation. A just, equitable, and prosperous San Joaquin Valley requires an inclusive democracy and due process for all. Now that we have provided this background, let's move on to our panel discussion, where we will get to hear from the change makers themselves. Advocates and community leaders will highlight key milestones and historic policy and systems change victories. In recent years, community-based organizations have partnered with community leaders to successfully secure partnerships with local governments and educational institutions to encourage pro-immigrant policies and increased opportunities for education, inclusion, and access to support services, and COVID-19 recovery. The panelists will share strategies and lessons learned from their achievements and will share how you can contribute to the ongoing transformative work to help ensure that the San Joaquin Valley is a just, equitable, and prosperous community for all its constituents. Our first panelist is Marcus Tang. Marcus is an immigration attorney and the Citizenship and Immigration Project Director at California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation. Welcome, Marcus, and please, the mic is yours.
Thanks so much, Eduardo, and greetings, everyone. Can you all see me and hear me okay? Great, so I know I have just 12 minutes. I won't, I'll just get right to it. So yeah, I'm actually filling in for one of my colleagues who is going to talk about the Disaster Relief Assistance for Immigrants program and California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation's role in administering that program, specifically in the San Joaquin Valley and the Central Valley. But first of all, I guess, as Eduardo mentioned, my name is Marcus. I am the Citizenship and Immigration Project Director at CRLAF. Before I actually talk about DRAI, I did want to just briefly talk about another direct relief program that CRLAF administered before DRAI, and that was one through the San Joaquin Valley Health Fund. Immediately after the shelter-in-place orders were announced, and it became clear that the federal stimulus, the CARES Act, those payments would not be accessible to undocumented workers and families. The San Joaquin Valley Health Fund quickly mobilized to award CRLAF a grant for direct assistance for families, specifically that had been excluded from the CARES Act stimulus. And so this consisted of one-time payments of $250 to individuals and $400 to families living in the San Joaquin Valley and the Central Valley. And so I think it's just really important to acknowledge the San Joaquin Valley Health Fund for its role in meeting this really critical need at a time when the state was still developing DRAI. This was a full month before DRAI even started. And so, this direct assistance model also became a stand, where in terms of eligibility and in terms of ease of access and fairness, how much funds per family, that kind of thing, that also kind of became a standard approach that many other funds, direct assistance relief funds, used as they were being created in the next few months, to respond to the devastation of the pandemic. And actually it helped prepare CRLAF as well, and our staff, because, having the experience from administering that smaller program, it really helped us when we had to step up to administer DRAI, or the Disaster Relief Assistance Program for Immigrants. So I'll get right into that now. So in probably 2 months after the shelter-in-place orders began, Governor Newsom, well, I guess immediately or very shortly after, Governor Newsom announced that the state would provide relief payments to undocumented immigrants ineligible for the $1,200 stimulus payments created by the CARES Act. But given the lack of any state agency infrastructure to administer funds like this to undocumented individuals, right? This was, very unprecedented, as well as confidentiality and trust concerns with having, this population applied directly with the government. The model the state chose to use was have 12 nonprofit organizations administering these funds in 12 different regions across the state. So each organization was assigned a certain region. I think the only region that had more than one organization administering funds was Los Angeles, but for the most part, so CRLA Foundation administered the funds in 8 Central Valley counties, including San Joaquin, Stanislaus, Merced, Fresno, Mariposa, Tuolumne, and I'm forgetting one right now. I apologize. Oh, and sorry, Sacramento and Yuba Sutter, so to the north. So that was the model, and what it broke down to was $500 per individual who qualifies, and so regardless of how many people in the family, it was $500 per individual, up to 2 payments per family, per household. And our organization was allocated 9,000 payments to be administered for, so 9,000 payments of $500 each, to be administered in our 8 counties. And there wasn't like a cap per county, but the state did, have this guidance of, making sure that roughly our distribution of funds throughout the region, matched the county populations and was proportionate to that. And so the program, I think it taught us a lot about this kind of thing, and it kind of laid the foundation for other, more other similar efforts down the line. But for our organization, we kind of overnight turned from a legal services provider to a direct assistance, benefit administrator, and that was kind of a really interesting thing for us to do. Let me see. Yeah, and as far as final numbers go, the majority of the funds did go to the San Joaquin Valley. It was about 30% to like the Sacramento region, and then 50 to 60% in the San Joaquin Valley and Central Valley, and then about 10% to Yuba and Sutter. And Yolo. Oh, I forgot to mention Yolo earlier too. Yeah, and the funds had to be expended within 2 months. So we were administering these payments, $500 each, from May 15th to about July 15th. It required, hiring over 100 staff members, temporary workers, so that was actually also a great opportunity for a lot of people, because a lot of people were unemployed at the time. So it gave the state a way to have people working again for a while. And ultimately, I think the total, if you do the math, it came out to be about $4.5 million for the Central Valley for these 8 counties. I don't know if I know there's a Q&A later, but I actually have another commitment that I had earlier previously when this panel ends. So I'm happy to take questions now if people have questions about this one. But I think the takeaway that I want to leave everyone with was this was a really unprecedented effort that the state initiated. Never before had something like this been done. And I think the success of it and the critical importance of it that people were able to see from it has allowed other efforts in New York and in California with the Golden State stimulus, for example, to try to build on that. And it's something that, it says a lot, right? That we, in response to the federal government's exclusion of undocumented individuals from really critical payments, that our state, our communities would mobilize in such a way to include those workers and those families. So that's something that we take a lot of pride in. And we're excited to see, how these efforts will continue to build on the success of that program. Okay, sorry, and I just saw a note. We'll leave questions to the end. So I think, well, that might be my time anyway. But if there are questions later about DRAI, I'm happy to check in with Eduardo and we can try to answer them, offline later. Thank you all.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Marcus, for your presentation and your great summary of a monumental program and a very unusual short timeline to implement. And thank you. I see a couple questions there that we can address towards the end. So thank you so much, Marcus, for the presentation. And thank you to the audience as well, and who has been, posting a couple questions already. So thank you so much. We're going to move on to our next panelists. To Bianca Wolff. So Bianca will provide a background and overview of the California Legal Immigration Fellowship Program. Bianca Wolff was named California's Collaborative for Immigrant Justice's Executive Director in early 2020. And prior to joining CCIJ, Bianca served as both Deputy Director of California Change Lawyers, formerly the California Bar Foundation, and CEO of Change Lawyers for a for-profit subsidiary, Cal Bar Affinity. From 2008 to 2016, Bianca was the Executive Director of Oakland Centro Legal de la Raza. Her passion for social justice comes from her own experience as a daughter of Mexican immigrants. The first in her family to graduate from law school, Bianca holds a law degree from Stanford Law School and a BA in International Relations from Stanford University, where she graduated Phi Beta Kappa. She is licensed to practice law in California and New York. Bianca, thank you so much for joining us today, and the mic is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Eduardo. It's a pleasure to be here. So again, my name is Bianca Wolff. I'm the Executive Director of the California Collaborative for Immigrant Justice, CCIJ. CCIJ is a statewide collaborative of immigration legal service providers. We're focused on using legal services, advocacy, and coordination to end immigration detention. So I'm here to share some background and information on the California Immigration Legal Fellowship. This is the first of its kind state-funded legal fellowship. This has been a long time in the making and a huge victory for immigrants' rights advocates, particularly those doing work in the Central Valley, San Joaquin Valley, and the Central Coast. But to understand why it is such a victory, I want to provide a little bit of background on sort of the legal services landscape. So despite the Central Coast and the Central Valley regions being home to numerous immigrants and then also housing two detention facilities, Mesa Verde in Bakersfield and its Golden State Annex in McFarland, historically there have been very few attorneys who've been able to provide deportation, and we also call it removal defense, in these areas. And it was very difficult for nonprofits as well to be able to have the resources to provide these services. So again, a lot of need for these services, but very few attorneys who could do the work. Deportation defense can be very time intensive, it can be very costly. And so what we saw is that sort of urban areas that perhaps had more resources, such as the Bay Area, Southern California, were able to sort of ramp up these programs and projects that had quite a few removal defense attorneys. And in particular, sort of as we were dealing with the Trump administration, there was a concerted effort to really push for significant state funding for immigration legal services. And this did include funding for removal defense, but there were a lot of different sort of requirements and criteria that you needed to access that funding, including having sort of well-established large removal defense practices. So in essence, the Central Valley needed resources. The need was there. They needed capacity building, but were sort of shut out of this state funding because historically we hadn't had as much capacity in the region for these services. So advocates got together, and after multiple attempts to really sort of shine a light on the need for these types of services, why the need was so great in these areas, in 2019, advocates were successful. We came together. We worked with Assembly Member, now Attorney General Rob Bonta, to propose that additional funding be given to create this statewide fellowship. So approximately $4.7 million was given for a 2-year fellowship. So again, the California Immigration Legal Fellowship was born out of this hard work. It was launched earlier this year. The program is led by the Immigrant Legal Resource Center. They partner with California Change Lawyers, CCIJ, and Immigrant Legal Defense to provide training and mentoring to 10 legal fellows. These fellows are scattered throughout the region, including places like Fresno, Oxnard, and Turlock. And in addition, the fellows are placed at 7 community organizations, again, all committed and wanting to develop their removal defense practices. These organizations include CRLAF, Community Justice Alliance, Education and Leadership Foundation, ELF, El Concilio Family Services, International Rescue Committee, Mixtejo Indígena Community Organizing Project, also known as MICOP, and then the Santa Barbara County Immigrant Legal Defense Center. So one of the things that really makes the fellowship so unique is not only are we investing in these 10 fellows to really provide them the mentoring, the training that they need to become full-fledged removal defense attorneys able to take on their caseloads and provide the services that the community needs, but we also understand that we need to support these host organizations who want to have these removal defense projects. And so the fellowship not only aims to provide the support for the fellows, but also to provide training training, capacity building, mentoring as well for these host organizations. The idea being that when the fellowship is over, these organizations will be able to make a case and show that they do have sort of the criteria and the ability to run removal defense projects and then be able to get this state funding, which is so important. And so I think, again, this was a huge victory, being able to make the case for why the region needed this type of capacity and sort of being successful in our efforts with the state. We definitely want to keep sharing the victories that we have in the fellowship. We want to continue to make the case for this type of funding and why it's so important to come with the state. We also hope to energize and get philanthropic organizations excited as well, so that they can also continue to support this this work. Because again, people are still being deported even under the new administration. People are still being detained. And so now more than ever, as always, it's really important for us to have sort of these local organizations that can provide removal defense services, and also these fellows that can, have the training and be able to help their communities. And I know one of our panelists is actually one of our fellows. So I'm really excited for you to hear from them. And, I think we're going to take questions at the end of the panel. So if anybody has any questions about the background on the fellowship, I'm happy to answer those at the end.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Bianca, for this great presentation and a great summary of the tremendous work that, over the years has really come to materialize, with the support of, leaders like you and those on your team, and in partnership with organizations across the region who have really, advocated for this, in partnership with many of you. So, and that is an excellent transition, to our next panelist, Jasmin Aleman, who will share, a little bit about, the experience of being, one of the first in California immigration legal fellows. Jasmin is a Central Valley Purépecha Chicana attorney from Modesto. She is a proud daughter of two immigrant parents who inspired her dedication to social justice in childhood. She is an organizer, activist, and art lover. She has served as an executive board member of Soul Collective for over a decade. Soul is a Sacramento nonprofit that promotes social justice through art, culture, and activism. Jasmin graduated from Lincoln Law School, Sacramento in 2017. She is excited and grateful for the opportunity to participate in her current Immigration League Fellowship, and it is the culmination of her dream to address the injustices faced by immigrants in the US. Her host organization in Turlock, California office is the International Rescue Committee, known as IRC. So once again, thank you so much for being with here today, Jasmin, and the mic is yours.
Hi, buenos días, everyone. My name is Jasmin Aleman, and thank you for the introduction, Eduardo, and for the invitation from Eduardo and Allison to be here today. There's only one of me here, but I really am representing the 9 other fellows that I have the privilege of working with. And I know that in representing them, we're all doing our very best to give back to our respective communities. For me, I grew up in Modesto, but my mother grew up in Stockton from the age of 12 until she was about 20. So I know Stockton well, I know Turlock well, I know Ceres well. The entire Central Valley is where I grew up. And at a very young age, very young, I realized the injustices that were occurring specifically in my community and the need for services and attorneys. And, I went most of my life before I saw an attorney or even a person in a position of power that looked like me, that looked like my community, that looked like my family. And so I know that I spent a lot of time in my youth trying to figure out why that was and working as hard as I could to make sure to be the example that I kept searching for. I'm really grateful and definitely want to acknowledge my parents, Silvia and Jose Aleman, who, are very, very proud of the work that I'm doing, which makes me really happy. I tell this story a lot and people don't believe me, but I decided to be an attorney at the age of 9. and not knowing how I was going to get there, but making sure to take every step I thought is what I needed to do. And to have my family support, it meant everything to me. So at a very young age, I made the decision, and then every step that I took was to get here, where I am today. Before I started the fellowship, I was working for a Native nonprofit, and I read the job description, and it really felt like someone sat down and wrote it just for me, because my biggest dream was, number one, to make it back to the Central Valley after law school, and number two, to serve my community directly in a way where outcomes would be obvious and the help would be thorough. I want to do my very, very best to represent not just people that look like me, right, but people that I grew up with, people that need these resources. And I'm really grateful for the fellowship in particular, because it's going to allow the 10 of us fellows to feel supported, to not have to reinvent the wheel in many ways, because we're already up against so many obstacles. You know, this machine, this immigration machine is and has been eating our community up alive. And so I think that any resources that we could throw at it, any help that we could provide is imperative, right? So I have a lot of hope, and that we'll be able to, you know, because off top, the fellowship doubled the amount of pro bono immigration attorneys in the region. And so my hope is that the fellowship continues and it grows, so that the structure becomes really, the foundation and the structure becomes really, really solid. And we won't have people being without an attorney. I don't know if everybody if everybody here knows, but when you're in immigration proceedings, you are not guaranteed defense. You know, you don't have a public defender if you don't have the funds to pay for an attorney. And so to be a pro bono immigration attorney is, I feel, such an important responsibility for folks that need these resources, that need this defense. And at the end of the day, you know, these are really, really tough cases. And yesterday I had an experience with the fellows where we had a discussion about, you know, there's going to be a lot of losses, but at the end of the day, it's really important for us to be able to extend our help to people so that they don't feel alone, so that no matter what happens on their case, they feel empowered, so that we could educate them, so that they could continue to educate their families and their communities. And so I feel very, very ready for that responsibility. I know it's going to be a tough and long road, but I want to dedicate my life to everything that everyone here on this call, all the panelists here, are fighting for, right? Some justice for our communities, some respect, definitely equity, all of those things. I feel honored, I feel blessed with the opportunity, and I'm doing my very, very, very best to make sure that other people like me see that it's possible, you know, that it's possible to go to law school, to finish it, to pass the bar, and to come here and to do whatever it takes to make sure that, like, everything that you experience, all the injustices, that you do something about it, that you do something to fight back. And I feel very empowered in my life right now. It took me a really long time to get here, but I take nothing for granted, for no one that helped me get here. So it's my personal story, right? Like, yes, I'm going back to my community, but I am my community. I look like them, I sound like them, I dress like them, and I'm ready to represent them, to be an advocate in the courtroom, to be a friend. You know, when dealing with clients, there's a lot of like humanity that happens there, right? There has to be trust. There has to be just an understanding that, you know, I'm there to help them. And to be honest with everyone here, like, I can't believe that I made it, but because I did, I'm up for the challenge of making sure that other folks that want to be here and do similar work have the opportunity to do so. So I have 12 minutes to talk, but I'm really nervous. So I think I'm going to end there.
Thank you, Jasmin. That was beautiful. And, you know, and you mentioned that you're very blessed to be here and very lucky to be here. And, you know, we feel the same way, you know, so we're very glad and blessed to have you here as well, and to learn from the incredible work that you've been doing, you know, and again, just as a reminder, we encourage individuals, to submit their questions on the chat bots, or if you're joining us through Facebook Live, you need to submit your questions and comments on the comment bots. Just to read a few here, Jasmin, we have from Bianca Wolff saying, woo, Jasmin, go Modesto. And another, Tina saying, thank you for your work, so, of course, the community is very responsive and very, about your tremendous dedication. So thank you so much for your presentation today. So we're going to move on to our next panelists. We're very happy and honored to have Javier Vázquez Baez from Education Leadership Foundation, most commonly known as ALF. Javier will provide an overview of and discuss key accomplishments of the Fresno County Legal Defense Fund. Also, Javier will provide a background of the organization ALF itself and how ALF is building on its removal defense capacity here in the San Joaquin Valley through its partnerships, with the Fresno County Legal Defense Fund, and also by hosting one of the fellows, one of Jasmin's colleagues here in Fresno. Javier joined Education and Leadership Foundation in 2015. He's also a Department of Justice partial accredited representative, and he is director of the Immigration Services at ALF. Prior to joining ALF, Javier worked in the protection unit at the Consulate of Mexico here in Fresno, where he facilitated legal services to Mexican nationals. Javier earned his bachelor's degree in political science from California State University of Fresno, and he recently completed the Pathway to Law School certification at Fresno City College. As a Cal Law scholar, Javier's goal is to become an immigration attorney. As an immigrant who grew up in Stockton, California, Javier strives to use his legal experience and to work directly with diverse immigrant communities across the San Joaquin Valley. So thank you so much for joining us today, Javier, and we look forward to your presentation. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eduardo and Allison, for having me. Again, it's an honor to share the space with a lot of community members and people who have fought for or have been in a lot of battles to provide or to have equity here in the Central Valley, especially around the issue of immigration. Again, my name is Javier Vázquez. I work with the Education and Leadership Foundation. I have been with the Education and Leadership Foundation since 2016. Prior to that, I worked with the Mexican Consulate on providing and facilitating services for Mexican nationals around immigration and other services. But today, I'll be talking about two issues. One of them is me as part of the Fresno County Legal Defense Fund steering committee member, and also how that translates into the work around remote defense and how ALF has grown since we started in 2012 when DACA became a reality, and how the organization has grown, received recognition from the Department of Justice, and how since 2015, when we received our accreditation, we have expanded very rapidly, and how we want to share that vision with other organizations in the Valley to have the capacity and have the trained staff to provide these services. And we'll finish with sharing how Luis has, our Justice Fellow, has connected with our team, and how this fellowship is going to serve, or is going to be the foundation for greater things, which is to provide remote defense representation free of service to families who have been affected, not just not just on the practices of the old administration, but also on the issue of how do we provide good representation for our family. So with that, here, there you go. So the mission and vision of the Fresno County Legal Defense Fund, when it was created, it was with the vision to that every person should have access to quality legal representation and full due process protections during removal proceedings in immigration court. We understand in the Central Valley that the lack of defense services often results in devastating impacts to our communities or families, and families without who don't have the financial means to secure legal representation. I remember hearing a family member that when she consulted with a private attorney on their family member who was detained, their entire case was going to cost between $16,000 minimum to $26,000 minimum to fight their case in immigration court. So this has a tremendous impact in our valley, because as we know, our families in the Central Valley do not have that type of money, or it's not like they have thousands of dollars just sitting there because they just want to have the money. So again, this is the direct impact in our families and the financial situation, and obviously the pandemic has created a bigger impact in our families. So and then also source here from the Northern California Collaborative of Immigrant Justice, they state that the research has demonstrated that immigrants represented by legal services providers may win their deportation cases up to 83% of the time. So if they have someone who can represent them, 83% of the time they'll win their case, compared to 6% if they go by themselves or without no one to advocate for them. So it's important to recognize that in the Central Valley, we have limited immigration legal capacity, especially in Fresno and obviously other areas of the valley, but particularly in immigration proceedings. So when I started doing this work back in 2012, when DACA became a reality, we were partnering with private attorneys, but we never heard about organizations providing these type of services. And it became more evident when the Trump administration took office, because of the anti-immigrant rhetoric they show, that agencies were not ready to provide these services. And obviously, as agencies, we were able to provide know your rights presentations, facilitate family preparedness plans for families around the valley. But to actually take cases and to actually go where families or parents were being detained, that was not something agencies were ready for. So another issue that we find in the valley is that Fresno and the entire Central Valley falls within the jurisdiction of the San Francisco Immigration Court. So for families to travel 3.5 hours, 4 hours, it's impossible. Again, the geographic issues between our families going to San Francisco creates additional barriers, and also that to organizations, because again, with the lack of legal capacity and our families not being able to go to court, that creates problems. Some of them will miss their court date, or again, those of you who have traveled to San Francisco, it's really hard to navigate San Francisco. So imagine for our families who do not sometimes speak English or have no translations to assist them. So these are some of the things that we have seen in our valley as we move forward with this work. So there's 10 organizations that participate in the County Legal Defense Fund. These organizations have done this work since 2008. It is composed of representatives from nonprofit community-based organizations, including those who provide legal services, those of you that are committed to developing broader legal support systems, and also non-legal providers. For example, CARE, they do a lot of work around policy issues, the Chicano movement. And again, most of these organizations are not legal providers, but they want to see a better future for immigrants, especially those who have been affected by deportation. So over the last 3 years, we have developed a very operational system that includes a process where we refer cases to nonprofit organizations and private attorneys, where they can take these cases and help families free of cost so they can be represented in immigration court. So through this model, we have a case selection criteria, and we have formalized a selection case committee where these cases are analyzed, and then they're referred to the nonprofit and the private attorney. All these are considered for funding. Again, we want to make sure that our families get the service free of charge, that the services they're going to receive are of high quality, and that it's focused on serving the low-income communities who have been affected or impacted by immigration, by the deportation case. So some of the key accomplishments of the Fresno County Legal Defense Fund is that since 2018, the Fresno Legal Defense Fund has received over $125,000. And that's through private foundations, individuals giving donations, combination of grants. And out of those $125,000, $80,000 have been allocated to ensure that these families have, or 18 families who have been assisted through this fund, receive quality representation. So we want to make sure that we continue to fund these programs, because we don't, unlike any other programs like the state who has certain criteria for how families can receive funding, this one we don't have. It's a universal representation beyond how we serve families, regardless of their immigration status or their criminal background. So since 2018, 18 individuals have been served through this fund. And also, we continue to address issues around remote defense and to close those important gaps in the region. As Bianca Wolff mentioned, pushing for initiatives at the state level that impacts our families in the Central Valley is important, just like the fellowship, and also we work to ensure that families in the Valley also know that at the local level there might be sometimes money that can be allocated to fund these type of services. So the fund continues to work around issues on pushing for ways to continue to fund these programs at the local and the state level. And I want to share a case. This is a very case that was referred to ELF. So this was a Mexican national who had lived in the Central Valley for more than 30 years. He has 3 U.S. citizen children. This individual was detained by ICE and referred to deportation proceedings. So the client had a complex case history, no resources to pay for his legal defense. And through this fund, when we hear about this case, this person received funding. He was able to secure a legal team that conducted extensive research. And when we discovered that this person had a prior immigration case back in the 90s, we were able to find out that immigration had made erroneous claims on how this person came to the country, and that in the past he had actually had some sort of protections back with the amnesty. So in a nutshell, the legal team, again, the agency and the private attorney filed a motion to close the case against him, and he was granted a positive result by the judge. We continue to work with this individual to secure permanent status. So we go back to the issue around, if this person wouldn't find any legal assistance, this person would probably lost their case, and this person probably would be deported and separated from his 3 children. So that's the importance of why we see this more on the view that anyone, regardless of the immigration status or their criminal background, has that chance to fight their case in immigration court. That's the vision that the Fresno County Legal Defense Fund envisions, and that's what we strive to continue to work with the partnership of other agencies, local leaders, and to push for policies that fund these type of programs. And one of them is the fellowship. Next, I'll talk about how ELF came to be, or where we are as of today. The Education Leadership Foundation is a community benefit organization that provides education, civic engagement, and immigration services. We provide professional development seminars, leadership development, internships, scholarships, and volunteer opportunities through collaboration with other organizations. So that's in general what we do. So as I mentioned at the beginning, Our immigration unit was born out of the necessity to assist DACA recipients when DACA became a reality in 2012. Again, it's estimated that between 40,000 individuals to around 70,000 individuals in the Central Valley could benefit from DACA, or can benefit from DACA. So the amount of people that needed services was tremendous. I think we have estimated that ALF has assisted over 21,000 individuals with DACA services, both initial and renewal, since DACA became a reality. So the need for service providers like us, like the Ayuda Foundation, Centro La Familia, amongst others, is critical in the Valley, even if it's for minor affirmative cases like DACA. So I want to mention that our agency received recognition and accreditation in 2015. 11 of our staff members were granted partial accreditation to provide immigration services. We have about 5 individuals who are in track of becoming partial accredited reps. And this is to mention that we have never had an immigration attorney until this year when we started hosting Luis, which I'll talk about at the end. So we have never had an attorney. We have always worked with LRC or those partners that can provide technical assistance on some of these complex cases. But again, it goes to show that even if you have accredited staff, the need is still tremendous, and it's not enough having 3, 4, or 5 organizations having doing this work. So the DOJ recognition and accreditation continues to be a great accomplishment for our office, because now we can provide more services, not just around DACA or naturalization. We can actually now represent people for free or by a nominal fee, unlike attorneys that charge a lot of money. But it's important that families can access free or low price services. We have done a lot of work in the past 5 years since we received our accreditation and recognition. And through this, we were able to represent people, actually go with them during their interviews, or if immigration is asking for more information, we know we can respond to them on their behalf. So ELF serves 10 major counties in the Central Valley: San Joaquin, Stanislaus, Mariposa, Merced, Madera, Inyo, Fresno, Kings, Latin Kern. And even though we have benefited from some of the state funding, that makes us eligible to do more of the work statewide. So we've done some work in the Central Coast, also in the area of Los Angeles and San Diego. So some of our great grant-based and pro bono services include DACA initial and renewal services, free of charge; naturalization or citizenship, same thing, free of charge. We provide free general consultations for families. And among other services, we provide information and we represent people on U visa cases, adjustment of status applications, VAWA, someone who wants to remove their conditions on the permanent residence, people who have children or are married to someone in the military can request parole in place. And then depending on the situation, we can provide waivers. So we continue to provide Know Your Rights clinics. Public charge information remains a relevant issue. Because of the pandemic, we stopped doing our free immigration clinics, but we used to have a monthly clinic in the area of Delano, again, a hard to reach area where tremendous services are needed. So, and as I mentioned, collaboration with private attorneys on deportation cases, and that's our partnership with the Fresno County Legal Defense Fund, as I mentioned, on providing on reps, partial accredited reps, working with the private attorney on representing people who are removal proceedings, in this case, those that are affected here in the Central Valley. 80% of our services are free of charge or grant-based. So again, most of our work, it's free to our families if they meet certain income guidelines, which in the Valley, a lot of them are. So with that, I'll finish with the California Immigrant Legal Fellowship. We're really excited because when this project became a reality, we have literally 2 weeks to submit the proposal. We are extremely lucky that we were able to host. Actually, our plan was to host 2 because of capacity, and then obviously the pandemic. We're only able to host 1, but we're happy that organizations in our region, have this opportunity to have an attorney. As we never had an attorney, now we're really happy that we have Luis Virgen as our first fellow by a program funded by the state. So this is gonna help us set the precedent. It's gonna help us grow. I really hope that Luis is enjoying his time here at the foundation this past 3 months since we started. He has seen a lot of cases. He has sat through some of our cases or when we review cases. So he's really excited about learning. He's really excited about getting to know the community. He's actually from Los Angeles. And we understand that Los Angeles has a lot of resources. You can find an immigration attorney or an agency pretty much every corner, not here in the Valley. So he's seen some of those things that are of need here in the Valley. So we're really happy for Luis, and we want Luis to remain here at the foundation. We want Luis to continue doing the great work he's doing. He's eager, he's hungry to learn. He's learning from all of us, just like we want to learn from him whenever we want to do this type of work. So in the long run, capacity building is going to help our organization to be able to provide a strong removal difference program. And with that, I conclude. Thank you very much, and thank you for the space.
Javier, thank you so much. Excellent presentation, and thank you to ELF for the incredible work they've been doing and leading in the region. So thank you so much. So just a brief reminder, we encourage everyone to submit their questions or comments on the chat box if you're on Zoom, and if you're on Facebook Live, we also encourage you to submit your questions on the comment box, and we'll be gathering them and sharing them at the end of the panelist section. So thank you so much for your engagement, and thank you all for your presentation so far. So we're going to be moving on to our next panelist. His name is Cynthia Ng. So Cynthia is a program manager at Asian Pacific Self-Development and Residential Association, also known as APSARA. He joined APSARA as a volunteer back in 2012. And soon after, he was recruited as a social services coordinator and a program manager. He has been working in the community since 1998, and he loves to work with people and is very grateful to be able to work along the community and to see his community members succeed and grow. He will be sharing and providing some testimony and providing a little bit of background about the immigrant and refugee residents advocacy in the region and also their resiliency. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to our colleague Cynthia. So go ahead, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm mute. So did everyone see my presentation? Please give me a thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. So again, my name is Tiong. I'm a program manager at APSARA. We based in Stockton, California, and today we will talk about our immigration services. We have some client testimonial and also their concern. Let me jump to the second slide. So I want to share briefly about our story. So APSARA is a grassroots membership organization. We are home to the largest concentrate of Southeast Asian population in Stockton, or the whole Central Valley. And we are the last remaining affordable housing property collectively owned by Cambodian refugees in the United States. So APSARA is established in 1984. And we've been an anchor institution to the Southeast Asian community in Stockton, providing space, organizing infrastructure, and leadership for community work. We provide services ranging from social services, deportation defense, to access to healthcare and youth leadership, and other community development as well. So because of we've been here for so long, so we call our Stockton, the Stockton is our home. So this is a very important that I'm gonna be invite one of my team member. His name is Mike Mai, and his name on the screen right now is still my name because he's using my account. So Mike, would like you to come join me and introduce yourself and share your refugee experience to the group. Go ahead, Mike.
Good afternoon, all. My name Mike Mai. I'm work with the Apsara Association for more than 2 years as a program coordinator, and I want to share my story when I come to United States as a refugee because my family tried to escape from the Khmer Rouge colony, so that's the killing field. That a lot of people get killed during between 1975 to 79. So I'm lucky one, and my family also lucky one that come to refugee camp and get immigrant to United States by the U.S. government. And it's a lot of challenge when the first time when you come to United States, it's very difficult because the language barrier. But my background when I was young, I also studied some little bit English in my home country. So they gave me a lot of like a better option to catch up with the new language with the English. I'm here 1984 and start to going to adult school to get resident for 1 year before I can apply the grant, go to data college. So I'm work full-time with the Daku Association. Daytime and evening had to run after work, go to school until I get my AA degree from data college. So, but that time I work with the Daku Association as a case worker to help out all the refugee, basically the diversity of Asian population, Lao, Hmong, Cambodia, Vietnamese. So to help them, provide them social service, provide them all the resources to help them to do a lot of immigration for a permanent resident called green card, like 1,000 families that have through Lakmo Association. And also right now, we provide a service to help the people at Apsara, because that Apsara is the last Asian community, especially for Cambodian, that stands strong in Samagin County. And a lot of challenge because after refugee people, a lot of families that have the kid go to school, not follow up them, and the kid get trouble, get involved with a lot of gang bang, and cause a lot of trouble to the family. And most of the people that come after refugee always have mentally depressed, sadness, because they live in the country, they come down here, they cannot speak English, and the kid goes to school and the kid drop off from school, get involved with the different activity that make more parents get disappointed. And they very like depressed a lot. So a lot of people that come to US always have a mentally ill and depressed and sadness all the time.
Thank you, Bong Mai. Thank you so much for the story and also your experience with the family. So to share more about another one of our team, she will come and join us and share us about her life experience as well as a refugee, and now she one of our team. Her name is Julian Kim, and I would like Julian to take the mic and share your story and add on what might have not covered. Yeah, please go ahead.
No. Hi. Can everyone hear me well? Hello? Yeah,
Yes.
my name is Julian Kim. I came here as a refugee. I came to Stockton since 1981 until now. I'm staying in Stockton in California Army. So I've been here for 40 years already. And after that, I was went to high school and I volunteer work at the Catholic Charity. And then 1982, they offered me a job as a coordinator for case to help the processing all the refugee came to United States. So I've been working with them while I still in high school. So I was working with the Catholic Charity for resettlement program 1982 until 93, and they closed down the camp, which was no longer. And after that, I was still attending school. I finished high school. I went to college, and I also it's my challenge is by the time because we don't speak very good English, so it's very difficult for us, to learn the second language. So I take English after work. On weekend, on Saturday and Sunday, my mom take me to go to field, pick up tomato, onion, and it's very difficult because when you work like couple $1, and by the time they don't pay much. After I've been working over there, I finished college and I continue to work at the Apsara. So I've been working with Apsara for 9 years already. I was case manager right now, care coordinator, and I also helping a refugee family that who have language barrier, and also they have their green card expire, and they're also some of them have the ready to deportation. So we work so hard that to get help all the family that who need, they don't speak English, and also they so we've been provide the service in 1982 until now, and a lot of clients I've been working and I've been serving, they still come to me and help them with the paperwork. And since we have a problem that we have a lawyer or anything that can help us, so we have struggled a lot to do a lot of paper for our refugee immigration until now. And my successful is for me, I've been successful a lot because I've been working around and I move up my family getting better because we able to speak English, and my mom can speak English and my sibling can work. They all get a good job. And another term is successful for the family. I've been helping them. A lot of them become a U.S. citizen, and right now is I'm do a lot of more case on a petition for become a U.S. citizen and also to renew their green card. But the one thing that we still have problem because we need a lawyer can help us because they're not able to pay for the fee, and they have the I-94 since they are right here since 1979, 1980. So we get a difficult case right now that we really need help from the other organization. And that's all I have right now. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Bong Julin and Bong Mai. So, yeah, I would like, this is the story of the one or two of our team that has been navigate through the system and they get succeed. So they have a better family, they have a better job, and now they're all of their kids graduate from high school, from college, they got a job. But we also have family that went to another route. So this is a story that I shared yesterday as well with the other group, but I will share it again with a little bit more detail. And I do have a voice recording when I talk to her, but because every time when I talk to her, like might have said that the majority of our resident and our community member has been through a civil war or has been through some kind of abuse that make them fall into the one of the mental health they call major depression or PTSD. So when they're talking about their life experience, they will have their sadness, their sorrow will come back to them and haunt them the whole day, or sometimes take them for months to get back to their status. So it's very difficult to get their testimonial. But I want you to listen to her voice, and then I will explain more. So thank you so much. I will describe it, make it short because the time is so limited for me. So she had 4 kids when she came to United States, but one of her kids got killed by a drive-by shooting, and they were shooting to another house, but so the bullet, it comes through the wall and killed one of her son in 1999, and he was just 18 years old. He was in high school. And 10 years later, in 2007, one of her daughter was passed away because of the illness. In 2008, another daughter passed away because of their illness, and left her 4 grandson and granddaughter for her to take care. She had only one son that living with her at that time. But by 2011, I was picking up from the jail when he was released for probation, and put him into the detention and deported him to Cambodia in 2012. So I might not get the time correct, but within 15 years, she lost all her kids, and one of the remainder kid was deported into Cambodia. So she was very depressed, and this is one of the 1,000 stories that got shared. And you can always, go and Google it or go to YouTube, and you can always see there's a story of the Southeast Asian, like Cambodian, Hmong, and Lao was getting deported. So she was called public apartment that owned by Apsara as a home, and she was settled down, as you can see in the photo right here. But everything was turned upside down when her son got deported. So her life right now is sorrow, very lonely, and is very hopeless. So what she hoped, that there could be a policy that allow her or her granddaughter or her grandson can sponsor her son back to the United States. I know that I'm run out of time, but please give me another minute to finish it. This is a story of Kerb Hin. So Kerb Hin is the deportee, and he was a farmer in Fresno. And this is the Cambodian temple in Fresno. This is the New Year flyer that was celebrated in 2017. And he was one of the members, but he got picked up by ICE after he's do like a monthly checkup, and he never missed the monthly checkup. But I was picking up in front of the home without informing anything to their family, and it was he was put into a cough in front of his granddaughter. I think he said that it was like only 3 or 4 years old at that time. So he was devastating, and he was booked into a detention center in California, in Fresno, in Arizona, many places. They move him from one place to one place. And at one point, he lost contact with all his family. So, but because of the support that we get, so thank you to all of you that are presented here today. But I want to highlight is the Asian Law Caucus, this is the IOLC, it's the CRLAF, and EMAC that has been working very hard to support it, CUP. So CUP was introduced to Asian Law Caucus, and the Asian Law Caucus lawyer have connected to EMAC, and EMAC was connected to APSARA. So I've been able to help CUP to get the lawyer to fight his case. So his case was dropped in 2019. He got his green card back in 2020, and now he's looking to apply for citizenship. So because of all the connection that we have here today, and because of all of the hard work that you do, and I would like to highlight the ELF and the fellowship program that Jasmin have just presented. You are the front line. You are the defense line to the community. So I cannot stress enough that how important you are. And as Julian and Mike said, in Central Valley, we have lack of legal defense for such a long time. So this is enough, and this is a time for us to get all the support for our family. Otherwise, we're gonna get through it again. And one last part, I want to share you about the anti-Asian hate crime that has been trending to increase right now. I got this survey from the CSUSB University. You can see there's a trend that's going up, and you can see there's the highest in New York, but you can see Los Angeles is follow behind, Boston is follow behind, Seattle and San Jose, and those are the most diversity Asian community that live in, and one of them are Cambodian, Chinese, Vietnamese, and Hmong and Lao. So I think we can see that the immigration is on the other hand, but there's another thing on top of that. And so with all of the support, with the connection that we have here, we hope that we can looking for a policy, looking for a support so that we can help make sure that the refugee family that come after us or the next generation are not follow the footsteps that we have, the struggle that we have, and they can have a better life, a better community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Satya, and thank you to Mike and Jolene as well for your incredible work and leadership on these issues. We really, really appreciate it. We're going to be moving on to our next panelists. And again, just a brief reminder, I encourage individuals to submit comments or questions on the chat box or on the comment box if you're joining us on Facebook Live. So I'm very honored to be able to introduce Jesus Martinez. Jesus Martinez is the Executive Director of the Central Valley Immigrant Integration Collaborative, known as CVIIC, a Fresno County-based nonprofit organization created in 2014 to empower immigrant families and immigrant serving organizations in the region. As a coordinator of regional efforts, CVIIC and its partner organizations serve immigrants in the region, extending from Kern County in the south and San Joaquin County in the north. Before heading CVIIC, Jesus was coordinator of the Central Valley DACA project for the Immigrant Legal Resource Center, and previously worked as a consultant in a variety of projects commissioned by nonprofit and federal government agencies, including the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USCIS, and the Census Bureau. In 2013, he helped establish the Central Valley DACA Collaborative, a regional coalition that brought together a diverse set of organizations seeking to help potential DACA recipients. And in 2014, these efforts led to the creation of CVIIC and a broader scope of regional coordination and collaboration in the region. In 2018, he was appointed by California Governor Jerry Brown to the California Complete Count Committee. Since then, CVIIC has been promoting engagement in the 2020 census-related activities in the Central Valley, has offered training and logistical support to local groups, and advocated for regional collaboration and coordination. So it's my great honor and pleasure to introduce Jesus Martinez. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Thank you, Eduardo, for the presentation, and to the colleagues who are part of this panel. If I may, I'd like to share my screen in a second with a presentation. As Eduardo pointed out, CVIIC was created in 2014. There we go. And it was an interesting attempt to try to develop regional coordination and collaboration. That has still remained the major objective of CVIIC up until now. And in terms of serving the public, what we like to say is that our mission as an organization is to empower immigrants in the Central Valley, particularly focusing on serving hard to serve low-income immigrant families throughout the Central Valley. Since its creation in 2014, when CVIIC was being even imagined as a preliminary step to that process, we held a regional convening in October 2013. And the reason for having that convening in 2013 was because the Senate had passed a comprehensive immigration reform bill that the House was also considering at that point in time. And we began to see that with DACA, there were many problems that were surfacing throughout the entire Central Valley that were impeding many families and individuals from applying to DACA for DACA. So we began to think about the problems that would emerge if there was a comprehensive immigration reform, because the demand for services would just multiply exponentially, and there was very little legal capacity throughout the entire Central Valley to provide that service. Overall, it was estimated there were about 900,000 immigrants throughout the entire San Joaquin Valley, from Kern to San Joaquin County. And during that point in time, there were only 8 or 9 accredited representatives employed by nonprofit organizations. The majority of those nonprofit organizations did not have an attorney, as was pointed out earlier today. So there were many, many different challenges. And in these initial conversations that took place in 2013 and 2014, the idea was to bring together the few legal service providers that existed with a much broader spectrum of organizations that were also interested in providing assistance to immigrant families. That included churches, that included community-based organizations, it included adult schools, it included libraries like the Fresno County Library System, it included pro bono attorneys, it included mass media outlets as well. And we began to develop this model of regional collaboration and coordination. And some of the reasons for doing this was because, given the very limited resources that existed, we did not want to be competing against one another, and we did not want to be organizing events that would be competing against each other, scheduling on the same day, same time, and thus really diminishing the impact of our resources and impact. So we wanted to do something that would be more appropriate. So this is a meeting that you see on the screen when this first regional convening took place in October 2013 to develop a strategic plan that eventually led to the creation of CVIIC several months later. So as a result of this regional coordination and collaboration that began to take place in 2013 and then was more formally carried out in the following years after CVIIC was created, the partner organizations and CVIIC staff were able to work together and to organize collectively over 100 legal services workshops per year. And these legal services workshops were organized in rural and urban communities, taking into account that the reason for pointing this out is because the legal service providers that existed then and still now are for the most part concentrated in the major cities. And we needed to get those services out to medium-sized cities, to rural communities throughout the Central Valley in order to make those services be available as closely as possible to the people that need them. So over 100 legal services workshops per year, in addition to the services provided by individual organizations in their respective offices. And this is an image of a workshop that was held in Delano in a Guadalupe church, one of the sites that became very important to us to organize workshops in an ongoing basis. So that is one example of the workshops. And this model of regional collaboration that began to take place in 2013 and then afterwards in 2014, 15, 16, 17, and since then, when the census work began to appear in 2018, we tried to apply the very same model of regional coordination and collaboration, which was to invite organizations to become involved in census-related efforts, to promote dialogue across the regions, to share resources, best practices, and also problems that we're facing at that point in time, and to also offer trainings and mini grants to partner organizations. In 2018, when we began these activities throughout the Central Valley, I think that we were the only organization that had received any type of census funding. And when we began to organize meetings in Fresno County, Tulare County, Kern County, Merced, Stanislaus, and Joaquin, we asked partner organizations if they had had any funding. The majority, or almost all of them, did not. And many of the partner organizations also had lost any staff experience related to the census. So we had to offer training opportunities and connect them to federal and state census officials, in addition to connecting the organizations among themselves and across the region. In Region 6, San Joaquin Valley Health Fund became the ACBO, the Administrative Community-Based Organization that provided the funding to many organizations, in addition to, that was state funding, in addition to funding that they also requested through foundations and obtained and distributed to many organizations throughout the Central Valley. So we also collaborated with San Joaquin Valley Health Fund in regional efforts to train and coordinate efforts. That was, I think, one of the major undertakings in 2019, 2020, and early 21 when we had the last meeting of this nature. For us, the work on the census was really important and very valuable in different ways. One of those that I like to stress is that through the census work that we began to do in 2018, we also got to meet and work and collaborate with many non-immigrant serving organizations that we had never been exposed to before because we were isolated in or worked in the immigration arena. So through the census work, we were exposed to the talent, to the resources, the creativity of many, many partner organizations from which we also learned quite a bit. So the census experience was valuable to us to help some organizations that didn't have that experience, but we also benefited greatly from the resources, the knowledge, the creativity, the work that was being done by partner organizations. And I'd just like to highlight the achievements of the Central Valley organizations that were involved in the census. Even though we faced the pandemic, even though we had limited funding for quite a bit of the period and many other challenges, the Central Valley and the state of California surpassed the census self-response rates in comparison to 2010. So for example, Fresno County achieved a self-response rate of 68.4 in 2020, whereas in 2010, it had achieved a self-response rate of 66.8. And in the state of California as a whole, the self-response rate in 2020 was 69.6, whereas in 2010, it was 68.2. So this was done during the pandemic. This was done at a time also when the White House was launching anti-immigrant and campaigns that would discourage immigrants and other organizations and sectors of society from participating in the 2020 census. This was, I think, a really remarkable achievement that reflects the effort, the ingenuity, the creativity of the organizations that were involved in these efforts, and that made it possible then for the Central Valley to be better represented in the census enumeration process. I also like to share very briefly one of the examples of institutional change that was brought about through the work with different entities, in this case with Fresno Unified School District. When Trump arrived to the White House, not only were families in general, immigrant families in the Central Valley and elsewhere, very concerned about the anti-immigrant policies, but one of the sectors of the population that was most directly impacted were children who were going to school and who were also listening to their parents express their fear about what the Trump administration was going to be doing. They were also hearing about the raids that were taking place in the Central Valley. And students at Fresno Unified School District, many of them were panicked about what would be happening to them. Fresno Unified School District administrators and board members contacted civic and other partner organizations to begin to address the concerns and the fears that students were having at that point in time, to let them know that resources existed to be able to assist them and their families, and also to transmit to them accurate information about what was taking place. So we had meetings with Fresno Unified School District. Many other partner organizations were also doing the same with parents and others. And the Fresno Unified School District Board decided to approve an initiative called the Safe Places Initiative that made schools safe places for them, for immigrant families, and obviously the kids as well. And as part of that project, what they also decided to do was to fund the opening of what was known as the Dream Resource Center, utilizing the facilities that Fresno Unified School District has in Manchester Mall, and opened it up in September 2017, a few days after Trump decided that he was going to be ending the DACA program. So the Dream Resource Center was actually scheduled to open the month after, in October, but due to the decision by Trump to end DACA in September, the process was accelerated. The center was opened. We organized one workshop at that point in time, and then organized with partner organizations a number of workshops dealing with naturalization. And when DACA was allowed to be processed once again, then we also began to offer those services with many partner organizations. So the Dream Resource Center became, since 2017, a very valuable community resource that allowed us to have large-scale immigration legal services workshops, opened it up also to partner organizations to offer trainings on the census and many other immigration-related matters. So this is a way in which a school district took the initiative to create a space dealing with immigration that was serving immigrant families and also serving immigrant-serving organizations. So an important achievement by Fresno Unified School District. And I wanted to share just finally one other project that we're also working on that is also the result of collaboration with many different partner organizations. It is an immigrant entrepreneurship project that we piloted in the fall of last year after planning during a couple of months with different partner organizations that included adult education partner organizations, vocational partner organizations, small business development center, legal services providers, and other organizations. And the idea behind the Immigrant Entrepreneurship Project was to provide self-employment and entrepreneurial training to Latino immigrants who are also being impacted by the economic crisis created by the pandemic. We all know that many families have been suffering a great deal because of the pandemic, unemployment, among other things. So we thought that self-employment and entrepreneurial training could offer them an opportunity to better position themselves in light of this crisis. With partner organizations, we plan to offer trainings to a cohort of 30 organizations. We eventually recruited and engaged 40 participants. They went to the training 2 quarters, and actually right now we're in the process of offering training to another cohort of 40 students. So overall, we're going to be offering training through this pilot project to 80 participants, not 30 as we had originally envisioned. And what we have learned through conversations with different partner organizations and also from immigrant families, one is that there's a great deal of interest in these types of ventures. And we're also working with partner organizations to develop additional entrepreneurial training opportunities that are going to be hopefully benefiting a lot more immigrant families in the Central Valley. This has allowed us to really open up a new area of opportunity for us to serve immigrant families. With respect to the participants, they have received trainings, they have received individualized assistance from different organizations that are involved in this process, including attorneys who specialize in entrepreneurship and setting up businesses. And we've also been providing to immigrants who participate in this Kickstarter grants to enable them to buy some of the supplies and other materials that they need for their businesses. So these are just 3 of the examples of participants in this entrepreneurial project. Again, a really exciting area of work for us, and we're very fortunate to have the collaboration of many partner organizations in this effort that once again summarizes our model of work, which is focused on regional coordination and collaboration. So thank you very much. Muchas gracias a todo el mundo que nos está viendo por Facebook ahorita en vivo o que nos verá posteriormente en la grabación. Ha sido un placer estar con ustedes.
Thank you very much, Jesus. That was an excellent presentation, and thank you for that critical work that CVIIC has been doing, at the intersection of education and immigration, and also, in entrepreneurship and, legal service provision and everything that relates. So thank you so much. Just as a quick reminder, I encourage you individuals to submit comments or questions on the chat box on Zoom, and also to post on the comment box any questions or comments you may have on Facebook Live. And I'm very excited to introduce our next panelist, Bianca Perez from Little Manila Rising. Bianca was born and raised in Stockton, California, and she is a second-generation Mexican-American. In 2019, she was the first in her family to graduate from college with a Bachelor's of Arts in Chicano Studies from UCLA. Today, she works as a program manager with Little Manila Rising, where she coordinates programs such as the Immigration Rights and Protections, Regional Transportation Plan, Sustainable Community Strategy, and now the Transformative Climate Communities projects, all of which work alongside youth to help bring multidimensional equity to our communities through community building, education, and advocacy. It's a pleasure to have you, Bianca. Go ahead and take it away.
Yes, hello, thank you. Hello, everyone. Buenas tardes. As Eduardo mentioned, my name is Bianca Perez, she, her, ella pronouns, and I am the program manager with Little Manila Rising. And just to provide a little bit context of kind of some of the stuff that our organization has done, really focusing a lot on like youth leadership development. So over the course of years, Little Manila Rising has continuously created a steady stream of youth advocacy in Stockton. So really empowering our youth to advocate for various issues ranging from ethnic studies to safe haven policy for undocumented students and their families, urban greening. We really believe that our youth play an integral role in fostering community advocacy and to kind of continue to build a school to social justice pipeline and create a generational cultural shift necessary for true equity. And so that's a lot of at the core of what our programming does. And, some of the things that, our youth have done in the past through programs such as the Next America Project, where undocumented and immigrant high school students at Edison High School in South Stockton learned about their rights in the process of community organizing, which empowered them to kind of advocate and use their skills and organizing skills to spread knowledge in our community. And we've continued to do that over the years, and now with our new program in our Youth Advocates for Social Justice. We currently have about over 20 advocates actively in different fields, whether it's immigration, environmental justice, public health, and so much more, and kind of shift, focusing on those areas and learning more about like what it means to be an advocate in the community, and really bringing them into these issues, because they bring a different lens to the table. They understand their community, they're trusted messengers in their families and their, and their communities. So we really believe that they are creating this generational cultural shift. Our programs are definitely 100% community-centered and youth-led. And so definitely want to talk a little bit about more of our immigration rights and protections cohort with you all. Again, the focus of the group is to really increase the community awareness and engagement, predominantly in education around immigration rights and protections, focused on South Stockton through like youth-led Know Your Rights workshops and events. And so with that, I do have our cohort, our team of advocates created a pre-recorded video that I would love to share with y'all, where they talk a little bit more about who they are and some of the work that they've done so far. So I'll go ahead and play that video for you all right now. Let me know if you all can see. Hopefully, we'll go ahead and play.
first-generation high school students in South Stockton. You'll get to hear more from them about their experiences with the program. So, can you tell me a little bit about yourselves and your personal stories as advocates?
So hi everyone, my name is Inter Tovar. I'm a first-generation Mexican-American. I am also a junior at Edison High School, but most importantly, I'm a person who cares about his community. Before Little Manila, I did my own research in social justice, but finally given the opportunity to educate the public as a youth advocate, I dedicated my time to do so. Through Little Manila, I was able to talk about the problems in my community and how we can address and solve these issues. I was able to establish connections with mentors and do what I am passionate about, advocating for the better of my community and the community of others.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Kirsten Jesus, and I'm currently a junior at Edison High School. I'm a first-generation Filipino-American, born in Southside Stockton and raised in Cavite City, Philippines. During my sophomore year, I found a home, and that home was Law Manila. And ever since then, I have taken part in programs such as LMASP, which is the Law Manila After School Program, as well as IRNP, which is the Immigration Rights and Protections Program. Living in Southside Stockton, I saw issues around me in regards to the aftermath of immigration, as well as firsthand discrimination, which motivates me to ensure the dismantling of cultural stereotypes. During my time in the Philippines, I saw and experienced the struggles of immigration firsthand, which motivates me to ensure that all families get the help, support, and knowledge that they need after immigrating to America.
Thanks for sharing. So, can you tell me about what you do as a cohort?
As a cohort, we develop educational and promotional materials in relation to immigration rights and protections, with high hopes that they reach all the members of our community. We attend workshops to educate ourselves in various topics such as ICE, DACA, safe havens, mental health, and etc. And we proceed to compile all of these materials to develop our own personal workshops that are open to all members of our community.
So, what was the most recent workshop that you two worked on?
So recently, on April 9th, we facilitated a workshop, Breaking the Silence, based off the mental health of immigrants. We discussed medical insufficiency, inequality in the education system, and inequality in the criminal justice system. We also dismantled stereotypes and stigmas that surround immigrants in the hope to better the safety of our immigrant population. We talked about cultural competency and how that damages the mental health of immigrants. We worked with another program, Iling Puso, directed by Hannah Divino, in which we had a turnout of 27 other participants, attendees from SoCal, Central Valley, and the East Coast.
Thanks so much for sharing. So now we're going to hear from our other two youth advocates. So can you tell me about yourselves and your personal stories as advocates?
Yes, of course. Thank you for asking about that, Evan. So first and foremost, hi everyone. My name is Rain Romeo. My pronouns are she, hers, and I'm currently a junior attending Edison High School. And my purpose in being an advocate is derived from my passion in helping others, as well as the inspiration I have gained from my community, Stockton. It's my home, it's where I grew up, and it holds so much rich and valuable history that should continue to be preserved. And the work of Little Manila strives to preserve the rich Filipino-American history here in 209, where Little Manila is in the heart, which is super important to me, especially since my ethnic identity is Filipino-American. I was born in Parañaque, Philippines, but my family and I migrated to the US when I was about 2 months old. So by working with Little Manila, it helps me to stay connected with my cultural roots. And being an advocate for Little Manila, it helps me have a platform to engage with my community as well to empower and educate others. And now I'm going to pass it off to our other youth advocate.
Hello, my name is Annalyn. My pronouns are she, hers. I go to Pacific Law Academy. I will be graduating in 5 weeks, which is really exciting as far as youth advocacy goes. Being a youth advocate, to me, at first, I didn't really know what it was. I didn't understand the purpose of it. Like, I was like, what the heck is a youth advocate doing, you know? But my first ever work as a youth advocate was the Census 2020, and now I'm doing the Immigration Rights and Protection. And doing all of this work has made me realize that the importance of being a youth advocate is being able to learn something and share it with your community. So the cohorts, such as the environmental justice, such as DAWN, such as the asthma initiation program, being able to like see all those people do their work and share that with the community is really great and fun and exciting because behind the scenes, we do all the research and all the work, and we're on a time crunch, and like at the final product of the workshop, we get to present to everybody who may not be so fortunate to have those resources, or maybe we taught somebody something that they didn't know. So it's really exciting to be able to be a part of that.
Awesome. So what's the most recent workshop that you two worked on?
Thank you for asking about that. The recent workshop that Annalyn and I hosted was earlier this month, April 6th, and it was in collaboration with LMASP, an acronym for Little Manila After School Program. And in that workshop, we had about 21 participants, and it was titled Stockton Immigration and Policies. The purpose of this workshop was to teach about the history of immigration in Stockton, as well as reviewing the various ethnic groups that migrated here to California, such as Filipino and Mexican farm workers that had such a positive influence upon the conditions and pay of farming labor. In addition, we also implemented Know Your Rights that people should be mindful of, such as you have the right to remain silent, you have the right to counsel, and you have the right to say no to a search. Throughout this workshop, we also had safe resources included, such as red cards. If you don't know what red cards are, red cards is a resource you can use to assert your constitutional rights upon interaction with law enforcement, such as if an ICE agent appears on your property, if you do not wish to speak to them, you can give the cards to them if you prefer to remain silent. And another scenario is when a police officer pulls you over. If you do not know what to say to them, you can just give them the card and you can just listen to what they have to say. So overall, red cards are super important and beneficial to have, whether or not you are a citizen or undocumented citizen. If you are interested in having a red card, we do have some available at the Little Manila Center, but they're only available in English and Spanish. So if you are interested in having a red card that you would like in another language, please still try to reach out to us and we'll try our best to get it for you. Thank you.
Awesome. So what other events and workshops have your cohort held before?
I suppose as far as other workshops, I'm pretty sure the other cohort has already talked about this, but we had I'm Safe Until 9 workshop. We had a Protecting Your Community workshop. We had the Breaking the Silence workshop, and then we had the Stockton Immigration Rights and Policies workshop. As far as other events that we've had, we had an event where we assembled N95 masks for farm workers. This was back when COVID was still pretty bad, in lockdown, kind of going out of lockdown, and it was just crazy times. The whole purpose of that was to make sure that everybody was safe, that everybody was educated, and that we were making sure that people who needed the right resources to be able to do the work had the resources to be able to do the work safely. As far as that goes, yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you all so much for sharing your experiences with the program. And thanks everyone for watching. So if you're interested in learning more, you can check out our social media on Instagram at Little Manila Stockton and LM Advocates. Thank you.
So with that, again, wanted to really share and highlight our advocates who are really the ones doing the work, and being able to present out to their community has been really amazing to see. And so if you want to stay connected for any of their upcoming workshops or events, definitely feel free to follow us at Little Manila Stockton or their direct page, which is LM Advocates. And with that, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bianca, and thank you, Little Manila Rising, for engaging our current leaders who are very young and who will continue to be our leaders in the future. So thank you so much for this incredible work you're doing on advocacy and on leadership development. So thank you so much. So we're going to be turning on to our next panelist, Porshua Her. He's a program manager at the Fresno Center. He will discuss some of the COVID-19 related hardships faced by our diverse immigrant communities served by the Fresno Center, and also highlight some critical stories of resiliency and success and some of the great efforts that his organization engaged in supporting our communities, hardly hit here in the Fresno region. So thank you so much, Porshua.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share the hardships that immigrants community face in Fresno County. Once again, my name is Pachuher. I am former refugee, came to this country at the age of 19. And this is my third job in the US. My first job was a dishwasher. My second job as a teacher aide. So this is my third job in the US. And I just want to share with you that I know that refugees and all the immigrants and community, we came to this country and we face a lot of challenges. So I just want to share you that after the pandemic and heat and what's ordered, the shelter in place was ordered by our governors last March, many immigrants live in fear and thoughts that it was the end of the world because of misleading news and informations from many medias, YouTube, social medias, and outlets, and some news are in our local. And due to language barriers and cultures barriers, many was not able to access the correct resources on COVID-19. And elders who live alone and have no children or anyone to depend on were hit the hardest due to limited access to food, to social services, and also health, mental health, and treatments. And besides that, immigrants also face price gouging from some of their local stores, and also property charge went effective and last February, make it harder for immigrants to obtain green cards. And as a result of this change, it add another layers and concern, hardship, and many live in fear and refuse to seek for assistance, even they are qualified. And they are afraid that the receiving public assistance that will be an issue when they apply for a green card later on or become a U.S. citizen in the future. I know many lost their jobs and could not afford to pay for their rent, the mortgage. At the same time, they're not able to afford for their citizenship application fee or renew a green card fee. And for those who are on public assistance have hard times to attain proof, to apply for fee waiver on their immigration forms. And those who have criminal records have barriers to obtain certified court records because of closure or limited access to the courthouses or court office. And also the announcement of eliminating fee waiver on many immigration forms, including citizenships application last year, caused anxiety among immigrants using public assistance. And in addition, there were proposed changes to increase citizenship fee from $725 to $1,170. The increased citizenship study guide questions from 100 to 128 questions, and the increased interview questions from 10 to 20 questions, add another layer of stress and concern to the immigrants community as well. I know the immigrants community not just only face a struggle with the impact of COVID-19, but they still deal with the children who are having difficulty with e-learning, having to learn how to help the children when they themselves do not understand or know how to navigate the system. They lost their job and behind the rents and mortgage, delay in obtaining the right documents to stay, to work, and to become a U.S. citizen. And lastly, the trend, Asian hate increasing, so that caused a lot of anxiety and hardships in the community. And for the Fresno centers, we try our best, our support efforts for the community. I know that the road ahead, it's not smooth. It's rough for everybody. But Fresno Center, we never close our door to those who need our services, such as immigration, medical, vaccine, and so on. But for the immigrations, it was such a relief that after the court blocked the increase on immigration form, the fee for immigration form, and stop the elimination of fee waiver requests for low incomes and individuals who are on public assistance, and reverse citizenship questions, and then drop the public charge rule last month. And recently we saw the increased number of immigrants came to seek for immigration services at the Fresno Center. And we continue to promote our services on social media, in the local media, and to update the immigrant community about public charge and other changes related to citizenship, now to your right of voting education. Fresno Center, we continue to partner with the other agency like CVIIC, like other agency in Fresno here to provide immigration services either through virtual or in person. And for COVID information, Fresno Center partnered with Fresno County Health Department's guidelines and to team up with Fresno County UCSF to develop some educational videos we can post on the Facebook to our local media. And at TFC Fresno Center, we provide support to those who are COVID positive as a partner of the COVID Equity Project. We team up with other agencies to provide COVID education outreach on testing, provide available sites for vaccines for those who are qualified. And since last September to March this year, we partner with other organizations under the support of City of Fresno through CARES Act Relief Fund and distribute food boxes to over 32,000 families and feed over 200,000 individuals. And currently, Fresno Center, we partner with the food bank and to distribute monthly food distribution to the community. And since last July, we were one of the 6 organizations received funding from the Fresno City to provide housing and non-city utility to household qualify. And we help over 400 families since. And for this year, we provide rent and utility assistance to those who were impacted by the COVID-19. And again, the Fresno Center, we never close our door and will continue to serve the immigrant community during this hard time so they can get their right document to stay, to work, and to work later. At the same time, we continue to inform the community about availability of a vaccination site, continue to have monthly food distributions, and diligently serving those who are behind the rent and then the utility bills. And we are blessed to be this team, and we're blessed that we are still here to do what we can to help the community. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Berchua. Incredible work the Fresno Center has been doing in partnership, with its residents. We know that, it's been a tremendous difficult time, and in a great fashion and in a great role model to all. The Fresno Center rose to the occasion to provide appropriate responses to meet the community's needs. So this concludes, our panelists, and we welcome. I know some of you probably have been waiting to ask some questions, so we'd love to open it up for questions and comments. To the audience. Feel free to drop them on the chat box, or feel free to drop them on the comment box if you're on Facebook Live. So I think we had one initial question posed earlier today by Hugo. I'll go ahead and read it. Give me a second. So I think your question was during the presentation, the discussion by Marcus Tang on CRLAF's involvement on the disaster relief assistance for immigrants. And your question was, is there documentation of the administration of programs by your organization, how these funds were administered, and also what challenges you faced and how it could be improved, including more staffing to answer the telephones, perhaps? It would be great to document the challenges to improve services to essential workers and undocumented families. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you so much, Hugo, for the question. I'll go ahead and answer briefly, for Marcus, as he had to jump off. So a lot of the DRAI was, really a first of its kind, unprecedented program with a very, very, short timeline to implement it. We only had about 6 weeks to identify individuals who were applying for the funds and to issue those relief grants as soon as we could. But I think one of the biggest lessons learned from this is, it was that, we wish probably we would have had more time to be able to implement the project because we were all organizations across the state were working under a 6-week deadline. Something that we learned very early on as well was our need to increase individuals to be able to take on live callers. When the project was initially implemented, we had a lot of individuals who called our 1-800 number and left voicemails. And then, we transitioned under the direction of the state to only be answering live calls. But luckily, we were able to hire staff, very, very rapidly. Like Marcus mentioned, we increased, I think we hired about 60 individuals in a very, very short time period to be able to meet the demand. And we were also able to hire another group to be able to answer and sort through all the voicemails. And organize them by county, and then delegate them to the staff who were in charge of calling the individuals back and doing the application with them over the phone. So it was definitely a very short time frame. And I think one piece of feedback going forward, if we were to ever have a similar project like this, would probably be having a little bit more time to implement a program of this magnitude. To make sure, that things are running as efficiently as possible and as uniform as possible, because remember, there were like 6 different regions administering, 6 different orgs or so administering this program. And we all try to be as consistent as possible. But given the short deadline, we all had to do what was, best for our own implementation of the project. So thank you very much for your question. I don't know if there are other questions that I might have missed from the earlier chat boxes, or we have any at the bottom. Let me check. Or if anybody wants to jump in and add on anything, or any questions they want to, or comments they want to share. I don't think we have any other questions on Facebook Live as of right now. I don't know if any partners would like to maybe make any announcements or share anything they could have missed earlier during the presentation. Go ahead. And if not, we encourage you to continue these conversations. And on behalf of Allison Davenport and I, we tremendously appreciate the panelists, work. This is really just a very, very small snapshot of the incredible and transformative work that they're doing and that they're leading in their respective cities and regions. So we really, truly appreciate the work going forward, and in ways to stay involved. Feel free. We're going to be. I'll share my email in the chat box as well. But I also want to maybe turn it over to Jesus. To see if there are any. He'd like to make an invitation. He's been chairing a tremendous regional convening that takes place on almost on a monthly basis. So I don't know if you want to share a little bit more about that and invite individuals to participate.
Thank you, Eduardo. We're going to be we're going to continue to have monthly meetings of partner organizations interested in catching up on policy developments at the federal and state level, to update on our activities, and to also continue the planning and the strategy to prepare the region in case there is some type of immigration relief. So we're going to continue with those meetings coming up, including in May and thereafter. What I also want to share, and I'll send the links via the listservs later, that we are going to be having also other training opportunities, including an upcoming presentation by Manuel Pastor, the well-known researcher who we've had along with San Joaquin Valley Health Fund in several events in the past. And his presentations are always the most informative and most popular of those that we have. So we'll be sharing that information with a Facebook link as soon as we finish the arrangements with him about the actual content and title of his presentation. But he's committed already, and I'll be sharing that information later on. If we don't continue this coordination and collaboration, and if there is some immigration relief, even for farm workers or dreamers or even people who have TPS or some other subgroup of the overall immigrant population, we are going to be facing a lot of bottlenecks. So it's necessary to continue to collaborate and to coordinate our efforts to better serve immigrant families throughout the Central Valley. So thank you all, and we'll be sharing that information via the listservs.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jesus. And also, as we log off, we just wanted to remind everyone, that this webinar was recorded and will be posted. We're going to be sharing it on the San Joaquin Valley Health Fund webpage. If you want to go back there and visit it or share with your staff and team or community members for their viewing. We also had a great presentation yesterday by also amazing panelists who talked about the policy platform for 2021 for the Immigration Policy Subcommittee, and also some of the issues of concern that they've been working to address around removal defense, immigration services, and also overall immigrant integration. So I invite you to watch that recording as well. And Equity on the Mall is not over. We have one more event. It's scheduled at 2:30, so you have time to register and to join. Maybe get a drink really quick. To hydrate. It's getting hot here in Fresno. I don't know how the temperature is faring across the region, but we certainly invite you to join the Education Across the Valley panel, which will start at 2:30. So thank you, everyone. My most sincere appreciation and admiration. Every org on this panel today and everybody joining us is true inspiration. So thank you so much for all the great work that you all do.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clarissa, for your technical help.
Thank you so much, Clarissa.
You're welcome, everyone. Thank you, everyone, and congratulations. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you, Diana. Thank you all.
Another amazing presentation, you guys, Immigration Committee. Wow, Subcommittee. Thank you so much for your dedication. Thank you.
Thank you guys for the support.
I'll be sending out that